Hey, it's Drybear, and today is my first Descendant build for the First Descendant. What I wanted to do was, and this is how I work in general, just how I function, I like to set the groundwork for understanding the mechanics in the game, and in this game I wanted to get all of the weapons understood and how all the stats and mechanics came together, but also because Descendant builds take a lot more planning and testing to see the feel of it. The feel matters a lot with Descendant builds, so now we finished the weapons, this is going to be my first Descendant build as we move into that, so let me know what you think about the format and style of presenting. So this is my Spineshatter Sharen build built off of the Overcharged Edge Ultimate Transcendent mod for Sharen. This is going to be really great for doing Sharen builds later on, and I've been doing actually tons of iterations of this. I've gone through many different styles, and we'll talk through my thought process and experimentation on that. This is going to be the final iteration of it I think works the best, and you actually will be running two sniper rifles, both piercing light and afterglow sword, and when you're fully finished catalyzing and building, it should be hitting for about 6 to 7 million every 5 seconds or so. You can rotate between them. Also, for the goal for my Descendant builds is for you to be able to pick them up and use them in most settings. So you can use these in solo play. We'll talk about how you can make the build successful and what to think about, but the complete build that I have for this is going to be built around having the survivability that you need to survive in most encounters and also deal the damage that you need to do at the same time, being well-rounded and well-balanced. So this is the first iteration of my build sheets. This goes over everything the build has, so let me know what you think about the layout here. This is going to be your 3 weapon slots, the core modules that the build relies on, some alternate mods on the right side of the screen that you may use that can be swapped in for different reasons, and your reactor with the mount and the stats on it, as well as the 4 components and the stats that you want best in slot there as well. There's going to be some trickery here because we are going to use a full 4 set. The challenge with external components when you use them as a set is their stats are a little bit more limited, and there's going to be some tricks that go into that. But for the people that just want the build up front, this is the total build. This build sheet will be listed down below in the comments and in the description, and I'll also create a gallery online for all of my Descendant builds so you can reference those as well. All right, let's talk about the build process and the evolution of the different iterations I've done, because I've been changing this build quite a lot over the last couple weeks. The basis of this starts with the Overcharged Edge module. What this module does is that when you do stealth, it will consume 50% of your current shields, and if you have 1 shield, it still takes all of your shields down, and it increases the ambush bonus that you get from your stealth coming out of stealth to increase the damage that you deal. So Sharen specifically has a really cool ability with the electric on her skill here, which will give her ambush, which means all outgoing damage gets increased, and then you can make that scalar even bigger by consuming 50% of your lost shields. This is a flat increase to damage. Doesn't matter how many shields you have, as long as you can activate the ability to consume Overcharged Edge, it will give you that extra damage. So there are options if you wanted to run 1 max shield with something like, overcharged or overwhelming HP, but you'll see in a second why we don't do that with this build specifically. So the general idea here is that we want to be able to use our camo and then super amp a single shot to do a bunch of damage. And this is a build I think a lot of people have seen so far. So we'll be able to stealth and we can do a shot, do a little extra damage on that. So that's the start of the build, right? So now we have that function. Then that becomes the question of what is the right way to modify this build as we move forward, because there's going to be different ways to do this. My first thought process when testing this build out was to go full cooldown, getting up to upwards of 80% cooldown. And the idea was that you would stealth and then shoot and then stealth and then shoot and then stealth and then shoot. And I tested that for about a week and a half, and I can tell you it's not worth it. It ends up being a little too slow. There's plenty of weapons that have very strong sustained DPS. I even ran things like, and I recommend for this build if you want to try something pretty cool, the Silly Weeper is a scout rifle that has very strong base crit rate and also extremely high base firearm attacks. You can run the Silly Weeper. Mine isn't even like very well upgraded, but you can run it with this build by stealthing and doing a headshot. And this thing, you can do like 1 to 2 million every single shot over and over and over. If you run with fire rate, it's incredibly strong, and I do have a Silly Weeper build that I haven't finished yet, but I would use for this that is actually incredibly strong. But just to know, I have tried the stealth every single time, and I feel like it's not quite as strong as this final version of the build. So if we are going to be focused on doing a single burst shot that does a lot of damage to a boss or a commander or whatever, how can we make it even better? So we're going to go with this build here. I have this link down below in my in the comments as well, and it's also on the build sheet that you'll see. This is my Afterglow sword build, and I would use it for the piercing light as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a whole bunch of firearm attack, weak point, crit chance, crit damage, stack all of this together with the final slot being a conversion, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then we're going to rely on strength and first shot, which gives you 200% firearm attack with a 10-second cooldown. So in this case, what we would do then is we would go here, we would refill, we would reload, which is how you trigger the strength and first shot. So then we reload, and then at about 60% of the reload, we stealth, and then we're going to go ahead and shoot and not crit. We're going to reload and stealth, and then we're going to shoot, and there we go. So there's like a big 17 mil on that. And that's the difference of strength and first shot. It's because it gets applied before the overall overcharged edge and ambush bonus. So the more we can amp that single shot, the more it scales, the more it gets out of control. But we're not done yet because there's some other options we can do to make that shot even bigger. So we're also going to be running with the walk a tightrope mod. This one is when you're at 50% health or lower, you get 30% firearm attack. I did try a whole bunch of other options. I tried things where you could do like shield collector, doing a whole bunch of arcade tech options here, like doing multi-talented for more cooldown to get in crazy cooldown. If you want to run the cooldown build with Silly Weeper, you would run multi-talented for the extra cooldown on that. But we can run walk a tightrope, which means that if we're at less than 50% HP, we get a nice another firearm attack increase. So we're going to lower HP here real quick. We're going to reload to trigger the strength and first shot. When it's ready to cancel, we cancel for the stealth. And there we go. We got an extra 2 mil off of that just from the walk a tightrope. But that's not it either, because there's another bonus that we can get on damage as well, and that is going to be with the Annihilation set coming from Devourer. This one has a passive that gives you up to 26% firearm attack when your HP is below 100%. You only have to be at 74% to get the full value out of this, but we're going to be at 50% anyways for Walk a Tightrope. So between the 26% on Annihilation and the 30% on Walk a Tightrope, we get another big chunk of damage on that as well. And so this equates to, on Gluttony, 6 to 7 million per sniper shot. So that's what we're doing, is we're getting our HP low. So rather than running a build, like I tried all shields and low HP to stay at a low HP value. So the idea would be sitting at the HP you see here, and then you kind of just hold on to that and use that for your damage output. That ended up being kind of odd. It just doesn't function super well, and oftentimes you just take a lot of damage when you stand up. I also tried the 1 HP option of this. You can do Overwhelming as a mod option. So if you do Overwhelming HP, this gives you 1 max shield, and then you convert your HP, you increase HP by max shield. The reason I don't like doing this is because 2 reasons. One is when you use Overwhelming HP for max for 1 shield, you actually run a risk of hurting your HP quite a lot. And also, if you run these other options as well, we tested this too, it fixes your max HP at 1. When your max HP is at 1, you don't trigger these percent-based bonuses. So the Annihilation set bonus and the Walk a Tightrope bonus, you cannot trigger when you're at 1 HP with 1 HP maximum. So that one's out. And I think this one, it's nice to be able to use the shields for a couple things that we'll get into in a second. So we are going to be using that. Next, I ended up running Conditional Recharge. So what this does is that when you use a skill, it will convert a percentage of your max HP into max shields. And that's why we have a little bit of shield on this, so that we can actually convert it, which means that every time we stealth or every time we slice, so if we go full HP here, we'll start a boss battle and then use spells to lower our HP on purpose. We want to get down to 50% HP, so once that's down, then we can reload and we can stealth for the animation cancel, get that there, and we can shoot, get our big damage output from that as well. So that way we can just keep cycling through that, and then we won't have to worry about it. And because we have some shields with good recovery, we're able to convert our HP into shields and keep the shields up, which means that even though we're hovering at low HP, it still keeps us alive. But that begs the question, what do you do while your strength and first shot is on cooldown? You have 10 seconds of time to spend where you're not doing your 6 to 7 million on Colossi, 20 million on Commanders, or 30 million on Elites with a headshot or weak point shot, that sort of thing. So, I ran with the Silly Weeper version of this, and it does work decently well. Like I said, if you run a fully upgraded Silly Weeper with a very low cooldown, like multi-talented, you can do some pretty nice damage with the Silly Weeper over and over and over, and it is pretty effective, but I think it's because the animations are so long on the stealth, I think it's not worth the effort. So the final version of what we're doing now is, instead of running Afterglow with Silly Weeper, we're running Afterglow with Piercing Light, so double high power rounds. So what you do then is you get to low HP, you will then reload your ammo here, so you want to get to low HP, by lowering it here. Use your abilities to get below 50%. Then you want to reload. When it gets to 60%, you cancel with a stealth. You go ahead and get the snipe. Switch to your other sniper. Reload. Animation with a stealth. Snipe again. And my piercing light isn't upgraded, so this would be another 20 mil on this shot here. Then you go back to your main sniper, reload, stealth, snipe again. And so you're cycling between the two sniper rifles over and over, reloading, stealthing, shooting, reloading, stealthing, shooting. And you can actually end up getting upwards of, 60 to 80, 90 million on even Gluttony just by doing this. And you can also play at a very safe distance by cycling. And I actually think this is the final, the best version of this build. So the next question that you want to solve here, the next problem you want to solve is going to be the problem of ammo. And that's where, having 2 high power rounds actually comes in. So on these 2 weapons, what we're going to run is depending on what your mobbing weapon is. So for the build, the third weapon needs to be a mobbing weapon. My mobbing weapon of choice is Greg's Reversed Fate. And so that means that I'm going to be using special rounds and high power rounds. Then what we do is on one of the sniper rifles, we run general round charge improvement for converting one of the ammo types that we're not using into high power rounds. And then on the other sniper rifle, we're going to do the other rounds that we're not using. So in this case, because I'm using special rounds for my mobbing weapon, I'm not using general rounds and I'm not using impact rounds. We can then convert those into rounds for our sniper rifle. You have to have the sniper rifle in hand when you pick up the ammo. So what you're going to be doing is sitting at max range, running around and swapping between your rifles, reloading once, stealthing, firing, reloading once, stealthing, firing. When you get low on ammo or you don't have any ammo in order to reload, pull out your mobbing weapon, kill ads or kill ads if you're in a dungeon, and then go over to the ammo that gets dropped and make sure you have the correct weapon in hand. So in my case, Afterglow converts general. If I see general on the ground, I pull out my Afterglow, I step on the ammo, I get high power rounds. If I see impact, which is on my piercing light, I run over the impact rounds, convert that to high power rounds. And because you're only using one high power round every time you fire, you're only having to get a little bit of ammo to keep this moving. And that also means that you can keep full uptime on all of your effects here, right? So you want to basically start the battle again by converting your HP down to 50%, and you get that download there, and then you just swap between those and then switch to your mobbing weapon and keep doing that. And because it's so straightforward and so easy, it ends up working really, really well. Now, I tried a whole bunch of iterations where I would do more shields and less HP, more HP and less shields, and you tried a bunch of those, and I found that the best way to do this is actually right down the middle. A little bit of shields, a little bit of HP, and a good amount of defense, and then you rotate between those because you're going to be able to convert your HP into shields when you need it. So if you have this here, and then we were to, get our shields down to 1, you can then use an ability which will convert your HP into shields, and then your shields will recover. And when we go into reactors and components, you'll see where the extra recovery comes from, but you can get ridiculous amounts of very steady burst damage from this build played at a safe distance. And you'll see that full list here on the sheet. You have our 2 builds for the 2 sniper rifles and then your mobbing weapon on the left. All of the mods that I would run for this, I like MP conversion and I like increased shield, increased HP, and increased defense. For defense, then you need a good amount of cooldowns for this as well. So we have walk a tightrope and shot focus. Unfortunately, this build does scale really well with shot focus, and it is a mod that you need to combine purple mods to get. So eventually you do want to get shot focus as part of this build. It's super strong. And then alternate mods here, like HP conversion will convert some of your HP into more shields. You can also run overwhelming as you want if that's something comfortable for you. The damage reduction from autoimmunity is quite strong, and then shields from weighing the scales. The other stat that's really strong here is actually going to be HP recovery modifier. What this stat does, HP recovery modifier as a stat increases the value of incoming healing, and primarily it increases the healing that we get from the consumables that drop on the ground. Because we're going to be going around killing ads and soaking up HP, it means that when we're in battle that we can be doing this and consuming our HP and getting it low. If we ever need to, we can walk over consumable, instantly refill our HP with the modifier, and then go back to consuming our HP into a nice, healthy ecosystem. Now, unfortunately, because we have a set bonus, we're using the set components here, they have a limited list of what they can use for stats. So the best in slot that I have here is going to be what you're going to be using for these. Some of them may feel a little strange, and that's just because when you use set external components, they end up having a very strange list of options. So For the auxiliary, I would get defense, max HP, and fire resist. There isn't really a lot of great choices here for what you get, but the defense and max HP is quite useful. For the sensor, you want defense, HP recovery mod, and chill resist. This is super strong, gives you a nice basis of damage, and does cover you for a lot of damage output. The resist isn't super necessary, but it is nice for a lot of encounters that you go into. A lot of dungeons and bosses have chill. Also, gluttony is chill, so it helps you there. You can also get MP recovery, but there's not a lot of the stats that can drop on Annihilation sensors. There's not a lot of great ones. You really just want HP recovery and defense on this one. For the Annihilation memory, you want two main stats, max HP and defense. It's always going to be max HP at the top, but then shield recovery in combat is massive because it's going to increase your tick rate on your shields going up. So when you're in combat and you don't take damage for a few seconds, your shields will start naturally regenerating. And especially if you have 3, 4, 5,000 shields plus your 8,000 to 10,000 HP, it gives you a nice recovery for that and allows you to get to the point where you can use your stealth to get into that as well. And lastly, you want a gold version of the one that I have here, which is max HP, max shield, and shield recovery modifier. So max HP is pretty self-explanatory, max shield is self-explanatory, but shield recovery modifier is just like the HP recovery modifier. It increases all incoming sources of shield recovery, which, by the way, does in fact include conditional recharge. So conditional recharge by default will consume, when it's maxed out, 17.5% of your max HP and then give you 12.2% of max shield. However, when you have shield recovery modifier, it increases the amount of shield you get without altering the amount of HP you consume. So when you have like a whole bunch of shields, like again, like 5,000 or so, when you're fully built out and set and you're fully catalyzed, you'll get a good chunk of shields that gets increased by this modifier. And then you have this healthy rotation of going through, lowering your HP, relying on shield, and sitting on a distance as well, so you can do a whole bunch of damage. And I think I've actually got this to where I'm happy with it. You can actually rotate between them. There's enough time between the two strengthened first shots on the stealth. Like, you see how the cooldown is right when I finish my reload. The stealth is just barely off cooldown, so we're not getting too much cooldown reduction to waste that time offer. Then I can reload again. As we get back to the first weapon, we can very easily just go stealth again. We get that extra damage on there. We switch to the other weapon, and it goes in a cycle. And I tried really hard to try and get just the right amount of every stat to make everything line up just right to get the damage that you need. And of course, this works incredibly well with characters like Enzo, because you can get up to 100% crit rate. You can see that my Afterglow sword right now is currently at 73% crit rate. That doesn't include the passive, by the way, which gives it another 22.5% crit rate on Colossus and Commanders. So you get pretty close to 100% on Afterglow, and if you have any external buffs on that, it ends up getting even better. Now, this build is very slow and methodical. You want to be using the rotation that you have and carefully aim your shots, because with Strengthened First Shot, if you miss that shot after reloading, the buff is gone. You will not maintain it. So if you miss that first shot, your buff is gone. You're going to lose that Strengthened First Shot. Then when you have the need for ammo, switch to your mobbing weapon, go kill mobs, pick up ammo, make sure you have the right weapon in your hand to get the ammo that you need, and start rotating through. And you'll just be able to keep rotating through this and keep very steady damage. It's very effective against weak point and gives you really clean play. And you can play from a safe distance as well. There's not many builds that can play from this distance, especially with the Afterglow sword, increasing your minimum damage reduction from fall off, so you can actually sit at a very safe range and deal damage. And I've also found that this build is excellent for destroying parts on Colossi. I kind of became like the mounting character for my community chat. I'll end up just, one-shot sniping a piece, mounting it and staying on it, and trying to reduce the amount of frenzy that gets picked up. And you can also, for things like Frostwalker, jump up in the sky, rotate, stealth, lower your HP, reload, pop one of those single shots on the little bulb on top of Frostwalker, orbs come out, do the next one, orbs come out, do the next one, and there's orbs everywhere all over the arena. It's very good and very precise damage bursts, and it's a super fun build to play, and it's not even Ultimate Sharen. So that's the full build. I have the build sheet linked down below with everything that you need for that build, and I'll probably just keep working on that for like the format and everything for it. But let me know what you think about this build and what you think about the format, and yeah, I'll see you next one. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.